ESC songs. In my case, my daughter last year really liked Espresso Macchiato by Tommy Cash, and it was a pleasure to watch her singing and dancing and having fun with this special song and special video. She also liked the techno or remixed version of ESC a little bit more. It was quite funny. And also integrating your ESC passion into your professional work, like I'm doing it, can be a long-term, high-intensity form of feeling happy. And I'm really grateful for this. But also volunteering around the ESC, for example, through blogs or fan communities, can create such feelings of long-term and high-intensity happiness. And if we take all these answers from me now to the happiness cross framework as it's meant to be, then it might look like this. And now there would be the interesting part to talk about, because there are some dynamics within the happiness cross which would be very interesting to have a look at, because they can move, for example, moments of happiness to experiences of happiness via mindfulness. So if you experience a moment like listening to your favorite entry in your car, and you experience it very mindful, very present, this can also become an experience with a high intensity. And also, for example, being in the arena and experiencing a live show can, if you don't really notice it because you are thinking about different things, or you are talking to different people, or you are somehow distracted from it, so it can be downgraded from an experience just to a moment of happiness. And it's also another dynamic between moments and structures, because if you are grateful for moments you experience,
all right, I'm not going to delay anymore, but everyone's back from the break. We're live again, right? Yes. Okay, great. Third round table, and Isabel. There you go. It's up to you.
So very welcome to our last round table today. And for this round table, which you all know is entitled United by Music, I am here joined by three wonderful guests. In fact, four wonderful guests. One of them is not currently present, but she will be, actually. So, pardon? Oh, okay. So, please welcome Jack Shepherd, a lecturer in tourism studies in the University of Mid-Sweden. And you all know Jack, so please give him a round of applause if you want. Lauren Heinisch, a student and researcher who recently finished her doctoral thesis about populist communication in the ESC, together with her colleague Boglarka Makari. Oh my God. Lauren was also, together with her colleagues, the winner of our 2025 Science Slam in our 8th Eurovision Conference in Basel. So, very welcome, Lauren. I hope Timna is there. So we will have the pleasure of having Timna Bauer. Yes, thank you. So Timna is a former Eurovision participant in 1986, as you probably all know, which marked the beginning of an international career that has crossed musical and cultural boundaries. Along her performance career, she has also been active in education and interdisciplinary projects. So welcome, Timna, and thank you very much. And a last minute invited guest, Boglarka Vienna. So singer and researcher, and doing an MA in cultural management, as you probably all know because you've just recently heard her statements. She has been in the Austrian national selection, singing a song with a very relevant name for this roundtable. We are not just one thing, right? Okay, so welcome all of you. Thank you. So I'm going to start by a question that I'm going to direct to all of our participants. What does the Eurovision motto "United by Music" mean to you? So, Timna, would you like to start?
Oh, thank you. It's an honor.
Thank you.
For me, it's just my biggest and my very first being on such a huge stage 40 years ago. So it's like a little jubileum, you know. I will never forget those 3 minutes, you know, because it's something unique.
Yeah, I know the feeling because I've been there, not as a solo artist, but I know the feeling. Yeah. So, what about you, Lauren? As a researcher, what does this motto mean to you?
I mean, I've studied in different places in Europe. I went to Lithuania, so it was very lovely. Oh, yeah, it was very lovely to meet the.
Yeah, it is on. Thanks.
It was very lovely to meet the man from Lithuania. Everywhere I went and did my research, I took classes. I met people who were invested in the same things as I was. So it didn't matter where I went to do research. It didn't matter where I went to study. I always had my group of people, and that is just due to Eurovision. So I think in that sense, united by music, everywhere I go, everywhere I do research.
So could you pass it on to Jack, please?
Sure. Well, I mean, I'd agree that united by music, it's how we all feel, or it's how I feel when we are there in the stadium, when we're there in the Eurovision village. But that's me as a person. I mean, you asked as a researcher, of course, that I think it stands for, at least when it came about, let's remember the origins of this slogan. That's what it is. In November 23, when it was decided to be a permanent slogan, the SVT, Swedish television organization, and EBU decided to keep this permanent slogan from Ukraine and Britain, who came up with this first. So I guess for me, there's some meaning behind it there, but it means standardization, it means branding, and I guess it means also kind of division in a way, because the slogan, when you put something out like that, everyone's going to start questioning, oh, is that really what's happening? So I guess for me, that's my research perspective, is that it's a problematic slogan, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. What about you, Amlak? As both a singer and performer and as a researcher, what do you think?
I'm going to add on to that. I don't think it's problematic, but I would agree that you have to maybe think about it when it's stated. When I first went into the studio after the songwriting camp that I just talked about with my team, with my producer and co-writer, I stood in front of the microphone for the first time in 20 years of making music. I thought to myself, united by music, like there's a slogan, there's I have to make this song for a show, then to be on stage and da-da-da. I've never been in that position as an artist. So then it got me thinking, okay, channel this sentence. United by music. What do we sing? Do we go for Celine Dion? Do we go for whatever, whatnot? And then it really dawned on me, oh, we're not united by music right now. We are not. And we have to be honest with this. At least that's how I felt when I was in the studio. So then I went into this loophole with my team of stating it differently. What is it that we are all, what are we all, basically? Maybe not united by music, but what's for sure is that we're not just one thing. And that's when we had this discussion, I was repeating myself and I said over and over, you know what I think that we all are? We're not just one thing. You can't pin it down to just one thing, right? And that's how the song got to be. And maybe that was already the researcher and the academic in me saying, I want to have a very political statement within my song and criticize it a bit already. So, yeah.
So this, I think, links to my next question, which for me is rather special because I come from a generation when the ESC was all about music and the song and the singer. So this is for the four of you again. What do you think is the relevance of music in the present days of the ESC? Because during this conference we have been addressing the ESC as much more than a music contest, which it is. But what I would like to know, and I would like to listen to your thoughts about this, is what is the relevance of music in the present days of the ESC? Yeah, Lorraine, for instance, yes, thanks.
Yeah. I'm also a blogger for a German Eurovision blog, and yesterday before the semi-final we had a live stream where we all had to give our prognosis for the semi-final who's going to qualify. And I repeat what I said San Marino is not going to qualify. Yes, there's Boy George and he did amazing things for the community, but the song is crap. And I was right. It did not qualify despite Sanhit and Boy George. So I think music is still very relevant. It's still at the heart of Eurovision. And maybe even social media and Generation TikTok, which I belong to, has made that actually stronger. I think we remember Portugal from last year.
Yeah.
Didn't do well at Eurovision. I mean, staging was not as big, as we know from other stagings. It went viral on TikTok because of the music, not the performance, not the artists, but the music. So I think we have tendencies where music is getting more at the heart of Eurovision again.
That's great. Personally speaking, obviously. Jack, would you like to comment?
Sure. I mean, I guess for me at least, Eurovision music is not the kind of music I listen to normally, but it's kind of like there's this liminal space, I think, between February and June when suddenly it's kind of like I'm listening to it in the car, right? But I was thinking about this earlier today, and I think it's kind of, I like to think of Eurovision music as a bit like the cards you're dealt. Like, it's like everyone arrives to play the game every year, and then there's this exciting moment when, it's like someone's got this pack of cards and they just put the card down and you're like, oh, okay, am I gonna like this? This is gonna be useful for me. So I don't know, like, in one way the music is everything, but the other side it's kind of not that important because it's people are coming every year and they're accepting what's given to them and sort of, do I like this, do I not like it? If you see what I mean.
Exactly, yeah, I do. I'd like to listen to Timna's opinion about this. What do you think is the relevance of the music in the present days of the ESC?
I think it's still the music, and this is very important. Not only, but still, and it should be only the music and the song. It's even more than for the singer. The most important is the song. It's a song contest, But because often you forget the one who wrote the song and you're focused on the one who is performing the song. But in fact, the real thing is the song. How do you write a nice song? Yes, the music is still in the center, but not only, and this is a pity, because it's a competition, yeah? It was always a competition, so you have also this pressure, to be the best. So it's not really neutral. It's not only about art for art, Yeah. It has many, many layers.
Yeah, exactly. I'll come back to this question of the competition, but for now I'd like to listen to Bamlak. And regarding this question of the composers that Timna referred, today the atmosphere is very different regarding who composes the songs. So I was noticing yesterday when I was watching the semi-final that music and lyrics, and it was a big list of 4 to 5 to 6 people. And back in the days when I participated, and probably Timna as well, it was like music, one person, lyrics, another person, or the song was composed and written by the very same person. So I would just like to add this small detail, because I know that you went to a singing camp, composing camp. I don't know how. Yeah.
Composing camp.
Okay,
yeah.
right. So
songwriting camp.
bearing it, yeah, all right, songwriting camp, exactly. So bearing in mind these differences, I would like to listen to your comments
About songwriting and
about the relevance of
composing
the music and the fact that today the importance of the composer is not one but 4 or 5.
And it goes beyond that. There's a whole team behind it. Then once you bring it to the stage, there's so many people that have to help you. You have to count on the team and community. It really comes down to community and supporters. And I would agree that songs, we've seen it over and over again. And I love the trend last summer when it was songs that you wouldn't have believed that they're from Eurovision Song Contest. I love this trend on TikTok because the comment section is full with people saying, oh, maybe it's not that crappy after all. And I think that is such a beautiful thing because it doesn't only happen to Eurovision Song. I think that's also something that we have to talk about at this point. Sometimes that's what I talked about earlier with the blind spots happening in communities. I think we've seen this in history. It's the same thing with jazz music. Once the rock and roll came around or whatnot, for myself, I studied jazz vocals, and I come from a very, very small town in the south of Austria. Stating that you want to do jazz music there is like saying you want to be jobless. So for me to say that, I think not comparing and saying it's the exact same or anything, but I think I see a similarity when you state, I think it was you earlier, you said you get comments and a cold shoulder of people within the society of doing researches and stuff saying, oh, but is this necessary even, or do we need this? It's the same with jazz music in my hometown, where they're like, why do we need jazz concerts? And then once they go there, they're like, oh, what a lovely music. And I think the same thing is happening to Eurovision and the songs and the artists, that maybe people, once they get a chance, because that's a very maybe controversial take, but I think people nowadays don't even know what they want, because there is so much. There's this overstimulation that we're witnessing, especially on social media, on TikTok. They don't know what they want until they see what they can have or what they can want eventually. So I think it's a very broad answer, but I don't know how to answer it more narrow than that right now. So yeah.
Okay, so thank you very much, all of you. So regarding this event, and to each of you particularly, what is it about events like Eurovision that make people feel connected, even if they come from very different backgrounds? I know that music is one factor, we've already mentioned that, but what is it about this feeling of connection beyond music? I don't know who wants to, you can start if you want on that.
What is the feeling beyond music? I'd say it's community, honestly, and I witnessed it firsthand. The Eurovision community, and even my manager, she was so excited once she saw all the requests coming in, because she was like, you know what? These are such lovely fellas from that community. They have manners. They're so sweet. Because to clear that up, normally when you get requests in the music industry in Austria, it can be very rude and it can be very intense. So what she meant by saying they have manners is like they have this appreciation already going into the request of being an artist. There's no question like, how much do we pay? Oh, no. It's like the discussion goes in such a different direction because they appreciate music in a different way. That's at least how we experienced it. And that's where she came from, saying, oh wow, this bubble, I want to work with them all year. I want to work with them always, because they understand they know how to appreciate art and music. And it also got me thinking, is it community? Is it just within that community? And because they have this big community where they talk about it more, and how could we translate it that worldwide? I think, once again, if there's another aspect besides music, it is community and talking about your passion, because there's so much passion for art and music when it comes to the Eurovision bubble, and I think that is very, very special, and I myself appreciate that community very, very much. So yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And I think it's also about ritual and tradition, right? So when we think about nation states and why we're bound together, it's through this, if we use Hobsbawm and his invention of tradition, that we kind of create these things that we all then buy into. And I think in Eurovision it's the intro sound, it's the voting system, it's an established ritual that we all follow and we all expect to happen. So it's kind of everyone's playing by the same rules, everyone knows how this works. So you have that, I guess, unifying behaviors.
What about you, Lorraine? As a fan, I guess, and as a researcher, do you have a double perspective regarding this?
I was going for fan perspective and German perspective. Fan perspective, what you said, once you're in the bubble, you're in. I think our blog actually made a meme out of you and you commented under it.
I love you guys so much for this. Oh my god.
But now we follow you and we will always see what is a Eurovision act doing. And we will always follow this artist, and the family is getting bigger and bigger. So in that sense, we are a community like that, right? Because we're interested in each other and we share the same passion. And then I think what is also a unifying character a characteristic, and that is my German perspective, is that we love to complain as humans. We love to complain. And Eurovision, I mean, there is so much to complain about. There is so much to discuss. There is so much to dislike and like and talk about your dislikes and likes. And I think that is just something humans like to do. And Eurovision is a platform for that, a huge platform.
Okay, thank you very much. Timna, did you feel this, that there was this a sense of something else beyond music when you participated in 1986?
Absolutely. It started from the beginning when I was designated to sing for Austria, and it ends, the day after. So it's a long period that goes and goes on, and it's more intense and more intense until the very second you go on stage. But the whole in this whole period, you have really the feeling that you belong to a community. It's very strong. You have the feeling that everybody loves you, even though they are in competition with you. It's really a strange feeling. From one side, you are sharing with them the same thing, and this connecting you so strongly, and at the same time they are they are against you because they want to win.
Yeah, exactly. Everybody.
You're a bit
My next question was, is that feeling of connection something temporary, or do you think that it lasts beyond the event? Did you feel that it ended the minute that the ESC ended and you went home and that was it? Or do you think that this is a sort of feeling that lasts longer than the event itself?
For me, it ended immediately because it was not my idea to sing for Austria. They just asked me, I would never think about doing it because at that time, and also today, I'm not so much into this kind of music. I came from jazz and from ethnomusicology, something very different.
Yes.
And then when the Austrian TV asked me to do it, I didn't say immediately yes, They were a bit surprised. How can I dare not to be sure to want to participate? And the day after, of course, I said yes, this is an opportunity. I was young and I was at the beginning of my career. It was clear that I will do it because it's a challenge and I don't regret it at all. It was amazing. But it was clear for me that it's just only, a trip to something else, and then I go on with my more crazy,
exactly.
not mainstream stuff,
Yeah.
So for me, but on the other side, with all the digital experience now, I'm realizing that still I have fans that love my song. It's amazing. For me, it's a surprise because it's.
Exactly. I was going to comment on that.
Heartwarming, it's heartwarming to see that there is a fan club for me. I didn't know it until I started to be on Facebook and things like this.
Yeah, because in 1986 we didn't have any of that, so it would probably be more difficult to make this sort of feeling of connection last longer. But now, Loreen, do you think that this feeling lasts, or is it just a temporary thing that lasts these 2 weeks and that's it?
Absolutely not. I mean, we always say after Eurovision is before Eurovision, because then the national broadcasters go into figuring out how is our national final going to be. They're evaluating the results. I mean, in Germany, big time prizes every year. What are we going to do different next year? Like, how are we going to find our act? So, Eurovision is over. You have the Sunday. On Monday, you sit together, you figure it out for the next year. And then you follow around the artist. You try to see, okay, maybe someone else is going on stage again, who's going to join a national final again, who's making music now, who's collaborating with whom. It never stops, especially now with digital media. Yeah. I don't think there is an end to it to that extent.
Anything you would like to add, Jack? No?
No,
You're comfortable. Okay.
Yeah,
Barat? I'm like, no? Okay, but what I was going to ask some moments ago was, because Tina said something like, even though we are competing against one another, there's this feeling of connection. Now, as a former ESC participant, do you think that the competition may eliminate this idea of a shared space that music eventually creates? Does it contaminate it a little bit?
you asked me.
I did.
I didn't realize.
Would you like me to reveal?
No, I understand what you
Okay.
said. I think that the word contaminated is too much. It's not
Yeah.
No. Still, if they are not my, I still love them and I want everybody to have the best, even though the best I want also for me. It's like, you are in between, I think it was a great experience. I loved it.
What about your experience in the national selection?
I mean, yeah, as you say,
The
it
men.
was only the
Really?
national selection, but it's difficult because I'm still figuring out what I can say and how I can say things. But know this, it's been a very bumpy ride, especially working with the ORF. It is just all that for an artist. It is very, very exhausting to the point where we all, I can agree on that point, everyone is so passionate about you doing the best you can do on stage that at some points we would even look at each other. Cosmo, he was right behind me if you saw the national selection, and in between the breaks when we had rehearsals, he would sit on my bench and be like, I'm so tired, and I say, yeah, me too, and do you want to grab something to eat? And then we would just sneak out together and then sneak back in, and we still text each other, so there's still a friendship going on with everyone from that, with everyone who participated. So I think it's just when you're there and you're on the brink of exhaustion, you really just realize you need a friend and you need community once again, and you need supporting system, and your manager is somewhere in the room and your friend is also somewhere in the room but not nearby. So it really comes down to those 12 people participating, and then you look around and you're like, hey, so do you want to talk about how tired you are and how many hours you slept? Or, hey, do you want to talk about how you felt with the technic guy, and do you want to go to the, I don't know who is responsible, and tell them, hey, this didn't feel good, or do we want to do that together? And everybody was so loving and supporting within those situations. I don't think, however, that they have any responsibility to keep up with that friendship, but some did and some didn't, and I think that's totally fine, that's totally okay. So yeah.
Great. So now, I'd like to ask maybe the panel, but I would start with Loreen. Do you think, because I know that you work in social media channels, right? Do you think that this connection, this unity is something that can be produced by the event?
Always an honor to be called Loreen. Because usually my name is German pronounced and then I'm not a Eurovision queen.
Okay.
Well, I like it, no worries. It can be produced, for sure.
In what way?
What I also wanted to mention earlier with the whole friendship thing is, I don't know if you guys know the Beauty Blenders. The friendship between Kyla DeSandro, Miriana Conte, JJ and Sissal, who went viral on TikTok for being a group of friends that is joining Eurovision. They became friends because of Eurovision. JJ won, and they were so excited for each other. And I would say at the end of the day, that's a natural friendship that maybe came natural, but I also think that the management was not mad about them going live on TikTok to stream about their Eurovision experiences. And they had a huge followership. A lot of people watched the live streams, and they produced a community within a community. And I do think that was partly intentional, partly built on, personal likings. But in that sense, yeah, it can be produced for sure. I don't think it's guaranteed what comes out of it, but there can be this first stimulus to create a community for sure.
Any comments on this? No? Okay, so
Is it possible to add something from the audience?
of course.
Yeah.
Yes, of course.
So, first of all, Mario Lackner here, Timna. My first Eurovision experience, 1986. We have been together on stage also in Urania with a very nice fairy tale evenings. But this is not what I wanted to add. And just really love to see your smile. About this community, insider community, and to find friends in such very stressful situations. I guess also from I mean, I'm sex educator and Sexualpädagoge, Sexualberater. So also from a mental health perspective, it's really good that those people who are so in stress, and you never have experienced such a thing before, yeah. Even now with all those social media channels, with like 3 shows, live shows, with thousands of rehearsals and parties and blah blah blah, so that you find somebody like 2-3 others, and you can share everything together. That you have somebody you can lay your shoulder on. So this is, I think, very good that they naturally found this kind of short-time friendships, maybe, to really have to secure the mental health, because we could see nervous breakdowns at rehearsals of Eurovision. There's some years ago, an Icelandic singer, and for sure many stories we even don't know. Or we had in the Austrian final the duet partner. She was just collapsing on stage live. Yeah, so that's really nice to see that such young people find their own supporting relationships there in that arena, in that bubble.
Absolutely.
Definitely, absolutely.
So, in a world that often feels complex and fragmented, what can music realistically do, and what are its limits, or what can the ESC music do, and what are its limits? I would like to listen to Jack.
Oh, no, not on this one. I think it's better to ask someone who's, been in the contest. It's not my research expertise.
Okay, Mamlaka, would you like to answer?
I sat down for a moment, I think it was around February or so, shortly before the whole contestant thingy happened, and I thought to myself, if I was music, if I could be the person music, if music was a person, non-gender, right? And somebody would come up to me and be like, you see all this, what is happening on the earth, right? Like on our planet. Make it go away, unite us all, and in best case, have restored peace forever. This is your responsibility now, from now until forever. This is what you have to do. I would go insane. It would be so scary if I was music or if I was art, however I would look like if I was just an energy field or whatever. I don't know how art could look like if she would be a woman or a man or whatever. But just to think about that, right? And I don't know why, maybe I'm going crazy, or back then I definitely was going crazy. So maybe that's why I even got to this idea. But it got me thinking, why is there such a demand and such a pressure and expectation when it comes to arts and music especially, saying, you have to restore peace, you have to unite us, music, art, and the artists, you have to unite by music. It's not even an option, it's a command. If you break it down, it's a command, which is the opposite of what art does, because art is not a command, because it's creativity. And when has creativity ever been a command? Ever. And when it has been a command, what did happen then? I think we all know what happened. So I didn't go deeper into that rabbit hole ever, because it really scared me, because it got me thinking, is it the slogan? No, it can't be. But then I thought, but it's words, and words have meaning, especially when you put them in the context of melodies and art and performance. And I don't know if the whole frame of what Eurovision is just has to be completely ripped apart and built new with words, with performance, with the whole idea to exist in a new context. That's just where I'm standing right now, but I'm open for discussion, because that's just where I left off back then, because I really got scared a bit and intimidated, to be honest.
Any comments, Timna?
What is the question exactly?
Yeah, okay.
No, music in general, what it means to me, or music?
Well, the question was, in a world that often feels complex and fragmented, what can music realistically do, and what are its limits? And the ESC music in particular, if you'd like, as a former ESC participant.
For me,
if anything.
Yeah, no, I'm still convinced that music can heal, you know, especially singing, because it's breathing. And what I'm doing in the morning, I mean, you should exercise. And I started every morning just to dance. I put James Brown and I'm dancing. My whole body is moving. And this is my daily exercise. But I just feel reborn because it's with music. It's not like automatic exercises, but I am the music, and at that moment when I'm dancing to a music. So it's a spiritual and a physical experience that I can recommend to everybody, and that's what it is also on stage, on the biggest stage on earth. I think that I'm very optimistic. I'm an optimistic person, so I'm sure that the song contest is very, very important. It's like the sports, you know. Don't go to war, go on stage and sing, and let's see who is the best, you know.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Before, you want to?
I'd like to add something.
Of course.
Thank you. I would like to differentiate different types of art, like music and cinema and theater, and I would like to share a personal story of my mother so that you better understand why I would like to make this difference. Well, my mother was at one point bedridden, she could not move anymore, and then we learned Madonna will come back to Germany for whatever reason, because there was no new music. And my mother said, what? Madonna is coming? So, well, I must go there, this will be my last concert. And I thought, no way, you can survive 1 year longer just because it's too much time. But I said, yeah, of course, I will bring you there. So it was her topic every day. She told everybody every day, Madonna will be there and I will go there, and we made it. With a wheelchair, and in the end of the concert, because we were like heavy concert goers, she could feel, she could not understand the storyline anymore, but she could feel the music, and so she knew what is the last song, out of dramaturgy. And then they clinched to the rail, like in front of her, and then she stood up and started to dance. And I was standing there like, no way is this medically possible. And afterwards, like, I developed concert psychology, not because of that, but I used this as a story I told in the beginning and in the end of this article, because what I did not know, there is an amount of research exactly on that. So Timna, you were talking about healing, and I'm talking now about people you cannot heal. And there is empirical research on this kind of people in wheelchairs or whatever they have as a disability, handicap, or just before they die, they can do things medicine could not do to them. And afterwards, after she died, I was like, okay, so what does that mean? And then I realized that actually nobody would ever say, oh, in 1 year there will be, let's say, this new James Bond movie, and I have to live on till that, and after the movie or after this theater piece I can die. I really truly believe, and this is something personal still, that only music can do that. And this is why I would like to make the difference between different forms of art. Thank you.
So before opening the panel officially to the audience questions, I would like to ask a question to each of you. It's a slight provocation, because we have been listening to the ESC as a political event as well, apart from a musical event. So, and yesterday we heard a very interesting group of young researchers who made research about how political the ESC was and where it was. So their conclusion was that it is basically in the lyrics and in the narratives that go with the lyrics, and not really about the jury votes. So what I would like to ask our panel is, what would a non-political ESC look like and sound like, if possible?
All right. No, I don't.
You're
I think,
not
well,
obliged to
for
answer.
starters, I think that that's impossible.
Of course.
I mean, we all know that's impossible. So the whole question is kind of like we know that it's impossible. So I don't really see the value. Like, with respect to the question, I still don't really see the value of us imagining one, because I can't imagine it. It's beyond our capacity to imagine it.
Yeah, my point being,
But
because it's so criticized, because it's a political event.
yeah, but I think that that's something we just need to accept. Like I actually, it becomes a bit tiring, the last few years and like the media requests that I get, and of course I study, most recently sort of Eurovision's relationship to war, and all the questions are about politics. You're like, well, there is more to this, right? There's more to this contest than just like the media hype that's just obsessed with making this as political as possible. But secondly, it's not like the broadcasters themselves are not political. I mean, let's think about, for example, BBC News, which, there's, at least in the United Kingdom, there's going to be a group of people who say it's too right, a group of people who say it's too left. But, if you watch the news and you watch the coverage of Israel-Gaza, for example, given that that's kind of why this Eurovision is in its mess, I suppose, that, every time it mentions Hamas, it will say Hamas is a terrorist organization listed by the UK government. But if it mentions Netanyahu, it won't say that he's indicted by the International Court of Justice. So there's already politics in everything they do. So when they come to Eurovision, it's not a surprise that obviously that's going to play a role. But I think our reaction to that in some ways, and I think that from the perspective of broadcasters, is if you know that, and if you approach this event which says that we don't want to be political, either you accept that or you challenge it. And if you challenge it and they don't want to play by your rules, then you leave, which is what people have done this year. So, I mean, I think that, no, there cannot be a non-political event. How it would look, I'm not really sure. Probably be quite dull, to be honest. Certainly we wouldn't have so much discussion here, I guess.
Exactly,
So,
right.
Any
thoughts, Loreen, Mamlaka?
I mean, I just wanted to add that I think it would be meaningless.
Yes.
Because to have a non-political Eurovision Song Contest, we would have to take away all meaning in everything, in all the lyrics, the performances. I don't know. I think it would probably just be, hello, this is the Eurovision Song Contest.
Goodbye.
Have a good night.
Goodbye.
That would be it.
Exactly.
I mean, 100% agree.
Yeah. So I think that there's not much more to say. We would love to listen to your questions. Exactly. So I think it's time to open our panel. And stay tuned with us, Timna. Okay. So please, Wilfred.
Here we go.
Thank you. I'm Claire. I'm from Scotland. As I said earlier, I got this flyer in the Euroclub. But one of the things that it's really interesting hearing you speak there, because I talk a lot in my own world of healthcare, interestingly, my worlds are colliding, about apolitical versus non-partisan, and that difference between not talking about politics and not having a specific about a certain party political in normal life, but country or whatever in this life. One of the things I love most about the fandom in Eurovision, and you touched on it earlier, is we are united in our disagreement. We will talk naturally about what we like, what we don't like. We are happy to talk about that. We have debates on it. What I've not liked over recent times is how that's changed online. So we have debates in person about how we can be united in our disagreement and how we like or dislike music. And I agree with everything that's been said about if we all like the same things, we would have no contest. But how do we keep that debate going into the online space, which is the way the world is now, which has become so divided that you can't express your opinion in the same way where you can online, because you get shut down for it, completely shut down for it, and as you mentioned, hatred, abuse, it's quite horrible conversations, so you don't say anything. So what I would like to know is how do we take the conversations we have here, which I love and really, really value, into an online space.
Yeah, that's pretty spot on what my research is on in my master thesis. The online space, the algorithm is racist, it's homophobic, it's everything you can imagine and think about. So in my research, I really try to understand the structure of the comment sections. Not so much why is the algorithm showing me this video, but how are people interacting with it? How many times has it been sent forward? How many times have people saved it or even commented again and again? Because it's interesting how many times one person or one account even comments hateful things again and again. And my theory right now, as I hopefully continue with my research, maybe even in my PhD or whatever, is that there is not enough space, or not enough space, I can't really articulate it, proper right now because I do my thesis in German, so there's a few words that I have to translate right now. Sorry, English is not my first language, but it comes down to, on the one hand, the algorithm being racist and all those things, and supporting neocolonialistic ideas and structures, and supporting them because it benefits from it, obviously. Companies, even consumers to a certain degree, because they only want to see what they want to see, basically. So there are enough people who profit off of it. And as long as we have those people, the people who comment about it and have a good criticism, however, they are not really being heard by the algorithm because the algorithm is programmed to do something else. With that being said, when I analyzed these comment sections, and I think if I remember this correctly, you are really asking how can we have these discussions online, because you think that in the one-on-one discussions we would have them more civilized or even more like with more sense behind it. That is the point. The whole point of inventing this thing is I can maybe, I mean, think of yourselves, right? How many times did you think, okay, I'm going to meet this person for coffee, and then later I'll text her, you know what, I didn't actually enjoy this, but can I tell you about da-da-da-da? Or you would call the person because you don't want to say it straight to their face, so you just send an email or whatever. It's been around for a long time. Now we have this immense thing where everyone is entitled to throw their hate and comment at you. And I think it really comes down to having more laws and having more rules in social media platforms. That, however, is very complicated because you would go to a place of, how's it called in English? Censure? Censorship, yeah. So that's something we don't want to do, right? So I think that is where we have to look into. I can only speak on the EU and the laws of the EU. We don't have laws, we don't have regulations, and if we have regulations, they don't really work, as we can see. From things that are, you know, I don't even want to talk about them, but we see how fundamentally bad social media can be, especially with these interactions that don't have any common sense and rules. So I think it really comes down to having rules and maybe even a codex where people who say certain things that are not politically motivated, there's a certain way that the algorithm goes about that or whatnot. So you really would have to look into the algorithm and to the law section, I think. But as you can see, we could talk about this for hours, actually. But I think your question is very spot on and very, very important. Yeah.
Can I add something?
Yeah.
Okay, you're going to add something?
Yeah, I just...
Okay, yep, and then I'll go to you.
Yeah. Also, what we did as a fan medium is actually to tackle this example for yesterday evening. We published 3 articles. One about this is how the whole performance of Sarah Engels is going to look like. Second is those are the countries that qualified for the grand final. Yeah. And third article was people escorted out of the arena because of shouts. You know, 3 articles. Under the 2 first ones I mentioned, we have our normal, you know, audience from the Eurovision blog, the fans. We know their usernames. You know, 5 more or 5 less, doesn't matter. The other article, the clicks skyrocketing. Of course, great as a Eurovision blog, you know, amazing. But it's not the usual Eurovision fan. So we got new audiences because of the political aspect of it that is now very much popular in the media, and that comes with a side effect. What we practically do is we don't have a lot of opinion pieces, but we work more with live streams. Because in the live streams, when we do a live stream, 300 people go in there, who else is watching like 5 Eurovision nerds discuss the semi-final. So there we have the protected like space again. That is something practical we do here.
Yeah. Check.
I have more like a remark, a comment than a question, but thank you for raising the question of political, because it's easy to dismiss it, like say, go to the webpage way outside of politics. But the question is like, what do people mean when they say that the contest has become way too political? It can mean like several things, and we need to unpack them because we have like a serious debate here. So the first one would be like hijacking the competition as a popular TV show to bring in some agenda from the outside, and that should be prevented like procedurally. Then very often we dismiss the opinions we do not like and do not sympathize with, Because like politics is about like separate partisanship, right? So, and if someone voices something we disagree with, we say, oh, this is too political, we disagree. But when we agree, we say that this is the right way, this is activism. Very good. So we need to be mindful about that. But then we also need to understand, going back, I think it circles back to the public value. Neither tech giants nor bureaucracy cares about public value. And this is like the big question about social media, because tech giants, they do not want to do common good. They are driven with some like very different objectives. And I think the EU as a like collective and like institution is trying to deal with that so far unsuccessfully, but we are going there. But also the bureaucracy, how the EBU should reframe engagement with politics to stop being accused of hypocrisy, because we have the conflicts piling up. And this is yet another question that we need to address meaningfully. So basically, what we can do as scholars is not to make it like black and white, but to show at least like analytically the levels it can be meaningfully discussed.
Absolutely. Jack, would you like to comment?
Yeah, sure. And I think that I'm glad you raised that point. And you kind of explained, I think you in some ways answered your own question. You sort of laid us out some good points there. One thing which I've been wanting to say for a while is that one thing I think Eurovision research should look into, and it's not just for Eurovision, it can be for all social sciences, is I think we really need to look at the word complicity. For me, this word is so crucial to trying to understand where we are today, because we've seen like an enormous expansion of the realm in which you as an individual can be seen as complicit in something, right? That's kind of the accusation behind, I have a lot of, maybe not friends, I know a lot of people who are boycotting this year. And you hear that people, they maybe are not sure what they want to do, but they feel like, oh, I'm being told that I should boycott this because it will sort of help, or it will show support for X, Y, or Z. But I mean, when you really think about it from a sort of logical point of view, the idea that somebody watching Eurovision somehow makes you complicit with what's happening on the ground in Gaza is such a long stretch of logic from A to Z. Now, I understand the meaning behind it. Essentially, it is that by allowing Israel to be on stage, or whoever it might be, it could be Russia, right? By allowing these countries to be on stage, they normalize themselves, they give themselves a platform. I get that. But surely there's also the question of intent. The intent of the viewer, if you're aware of that's what they're trying to do, then you already are kind of in some ways immune to that effort. So I feel like there's not enough discussion. There's a lot of discussion around, is it political? I don't think there's enough discussion on the philosophy behind what are we really saying when we're saying like, oh, it's outrageous that X takes part, or, you shouldn't watch that because you're supporting that. I think that there's not enough reflection on what, and I don't have a good question about that, but I know that in my current other research, which is on travel to dictatorships, so it's a question I'm very interested in, that a lot of people give people shit on social media. For example, I follow this food blogger. He went to Qatar recently, to the Qatar Food Festival. All these comments, how could you? I hope the food tasted good because the human right cost, And so there's a lot of hate for people who travel to these places, and yet if nobody went to 74% of the world that isn't democratic, the consequences would be enormous. That's not to say, we should encourage activism. I think, it has its place, but there is this kind of unreasonable expansion of moral concern, I think, nowadays, and the sort of lines of complicity that people draw. For me, that would be interesting research and help.
Thank you. Great. Other questions?
Yep. There you go. Hello. This goes maybe a bit to what you just said, but I'm curious about sort of the vibe shift in Eurovision the last 5 years, let's say, as post-pandemic, as all these different political things have come in, and this idea of complicity, like you said. And all the people, all the fans, I'm sure you know this from the fan front side, who have disavowed or left Eurovision, which maybe has somewhat of an opposite effect too, because then what they oppose becomes a bigger percentage of what's left in the contest in terms of, let's say, Israel support in that example. So I'm curious if you think there's anything that could reverse this tide, basically. Anything that sort of would stop the outflow, whether that's a change from the contest structurally, from how outsiders view it, how the protests organizer themselves, or think of that. Just what, if anything, could stop this, what seems to be the sort of bleeding of the support?
Yeah, do you want?
Which is direct? Any?
Can I just ask?
Would you like? Yeah.
You're saying what could stop it, or how did you phrase that?
Yeah, I mean, there are a few different things, but basically, if there's something that could sort of stop this, what seems to be this clear loss of support, this decrease in in belief in the contest and enjoyment of the contest from people. If that's just what it's going to be during this time, or if there is a way to change the trends.
But wouldn't that mean you would stop or interrupt a natural process that you see with everything that's happening ever? When you go back in society, there's always development, and with development comes destruction or whatnot.
Yeah.
And I think you would stop something right there. And I think it is important. Some of us might not like it. Some of us might even like it in a sense where it's like, I want to discuss, I want this, or whatever, I don't know. This is part of society, this is part of culture, this is part of, I think at least, this is part of how humans coexist and exist. I just think I agree a bit with you there. Not fully though, but that we are taking everything, or quite a few things right now, to extremes, which is part of our time right now. And I think every generation has their things, and maybe part of our generation, because I think we're both within the same one, is we are facing the pendulum going to that one extreme and the pendulum going to the other extreme, and it's either black or it's white. Yeah. And now we have to figure out the pink colors, the blue colors, the yellow colors. I know this is very metaphoric and very abstract and feng shui how I'm saying it, I'm sorry. But I have no, sometimes those answers are really the first step towards the right direction, I fear, for myself. Because, let's break it down, that's also part of art. It's abstract sometimes. So, yeah.
Lorraine, would you like to comment?
I mean, culture, art that reflects reality. You know, and the reality is that the world is polarized. The reality is that people do not agree. The reality is that some people support this government and some support another, and we can get on our high horse and say, but this is how it should be, and then we can say, okay, and this ideal that we have, we put that into Eurovision, and then we make it the space that we want it to be. But art reflect reality, and if the reality is fragmented, Eurovision is going to be, we have to just figure out how to deal with that instead of wanting to reverse that, because we will not. That is like asking, okay, please solve all issues of society. We won't.
Timna, would you like to comment on this gentleman's question?
I think that as long as the conversation is not hateful, we are privileged that we can say whatever we want. And this is a very small window in time and in space. We are happy people because we can say whatever we want. Isn't it amazing?
Yes. Personally, I think so. Yes.
Well, I would have two very short reflections to what just has been said. First of all, to what Pamela and you said, referring to the digital environment. I think it's about ownership versus public interest. The internet we are living in is almost completely in the hands of a couple of companies. And there's almost, as you said before, no transparency, no law of rules and stuff like that. We know all that. But the contrary is public interest. Yeah. So, and I'm again referring to governmental interest. So we have to be aware of that. That's the solution, not. But public interest is key. So, and that would be my second reflection, referring to what you, Pamela, said to the claim united by music. I can understand that you feel uncomfortable by that, because personally I don't want to be united by force, yeah? If you understand that as a command. Because I'm an individual, so therefore nobody should force me into some sort of being united somehow. However, the thing is that there is, the good thing is that I'm an individual, as you are. But in the world we are living, there's more than just me yeah, and you. It's the us. Yeah? So therefore, it's the connection between the individual and the other. So therefore, I do understand united by music as an inspiration to consider, you know, the us in the society and not just the me. And I'm you know, 65 years now, and to my objection and to my observation, society has been completely split up in individuality, and that's not just about freedom of the individual, but it's only, you know, that I'm an individual consumer, and they can do whatever they would. We are sitting in a world of home office, yeah, this being disconnected, you know, with all our individual program. We think, Yeah. So therefore, I do understand, and I invite all of you to understand United by Music not as a command, yeah, but as an inspiration to remind us that there's something between us which connects the me with the us. And in this sense, we can be united. And if the bridge, by the way, the bridge is not a political meeting, but music, yeah, well, that's perfect. That's perfect. So therefore, I do understand that more as an inspiration and an invitation, and of course not as an uncomfortable command.
Any comments from the panel on this?
Like to add
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
All right.
And it's just adding,
Yeah.
because you were also mentioning the companies, and I think we are talking way too little about companies, Moroccan Oil and all the others in the back here. The EBU, the connections with record companies. We are not talking about what happened really 2 years ago with Joost Klein. Backstage, something he insulted. No police was the judge was the EBU and not the broadcaster. So, and then he was just disqualified. This is just the peak of the iceberg, I think. We have no clue, and we should have much more science about the companies in the back, about Moroccan Oil, about the heritage, all these genes, crazy stuff going on. Really, it's not about the public broadcasters, it's not about the fans, it's not about Gaza, Israel. And I think those are all, we have to put on our lenses or glasses to look behind all those discussions and all these chits and chats to see really what is really going on in Geneva and in all these in the steering groups, and behind the steering groups, behind the EBU, the connections between the producers, it's not CEO, it's I think director of EBU and the record companies, and again as a Moroccan Oil now you can, so I even don't know where to buy those things. So I think this should be maybe also you could invite other
for another round.
Eurovisions also to make bachelor and master degrees, PhDs about the capitalistic side of Eurovision.
Yeah, right.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
You had a question. I don't know who was first, but is that okay? Please go ahead.
I just have a short comment on what Laureen said before about fragmentation. There is a book by William Marin and Andrew Hoskins, colleagues, media scholars from the UK, called sharded media. And this metaphor of everybody holds a shard in their hands really changed my mind, because before I was thinking of how to fight right-wing movements, and Eurovision and promoting diversity and unitedness can be a weapon. This is what I was thinking before. But this book changed my mind in terms of, oh, now I understand that we cannot change it, we cannot reverse it, this kind of fragmentation and sharded media. And yeah, but still the question is, what does Eurovision do? Because for me, Eurovision is still one of the best examples, being the opposite of fragmentation and right-wing movement. And I would differentiate between real-life experiences, not only being here in Vienna at the moment, but also like being in whatever country at home together, like live togetherness with people, as in opposition to social media stuff going on. So for me, this is maybe the way not to change, not to reverse, not to go back, but to enforce face-to-face meetings, conversations, discussions, more and less like the online things going on.
Yeah. Okay. Ben?
Thank you very much. It's been a difficult few years for the Eurovision Song Contest. We've discussed some of that here. What I've learned from the panel is some valuable critique about how United by Music has this double-edged impact on the song contest now after the Malmo contest, where it was first written as an ongoing slogan. Are we now at the point, either directly or indirectly, with Eurovision research, to be able to point at something where we can learn lessons from these turbulent few years and these participation questions about what should have been done differently or what should be done now?
Is it okay if we make that the last question? Yeah?
Yeah,
Isabel? Okay. Yeah. Or Carla, is there a question online as well? Oh, that was a thumbs up. Okay, yeah. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure of an answer yet, but we'll try. I think that we're still kind of in the middle of it all, I guess, so maybe it's a bit too early to start evaluating because we don't really know the results of this approach. I guess the approach of this kind of more heavy brand. I was just thinking when we've been talking about United by Music that in some ways I think the old slogans, not to sound like a nostalgic, but they also had value in terms of creating discussion. So we've had a lot of discussion now about United by Music, but before there was these other slogans which could also be played on and create some discussion. So I remember my first Eurovision for my study on the boycott of the Tel Aviv Eurovision, and there the slogan was Dare to Dream. And I remember this fantastic advert which was done by Breaking the Silence, which is an organization of former Israeli soldiers who give tours to tourists of the West Bank, and they kind of tell what it was like to be in this army that they now decided they don't really feel comfortable with. And so this poster was half of Tel Aviv beach and half of a watchtower and the separation wall, and so it was split so that it says Dare to Dream, and then underneath it said of freedom, and it was just this fantastic sort of instrumentalization of the Eurovision slogan. And I kind of summarized my article. I finished my article on that note because I was like, well, it's perfectly fine to go to Eurovision. I think everyone has the right to enjoy this festival and celebration of love and joy. But of course, there's other things happening here when you're here visiting, and why not make yourself aware of that? And so I thought there was some power in that slogan. And so I guess it doesn't really answer your question at all, but I think it's interesting how we've kind of now been robbed of this opportunity to create new discussions with new slogans, because we're kind of now, as you say, in a way, it's like a command, like you will now forever be united by music. So.
Can I just
Okay, of course. Being the last question, I would like to hear all of you.
I think I'm going to make it very short. Maybe it's a bit provocative, but you said, sorry for picking the words, but you said, can we learn from this? Sure you can. Why not? Of course, you can always. You can do a lot of things. The question is, will you and will we? Will we learn from this? Will we make a decision, and will the people who are in power decide to learn from this? And it's not just, as we heard earlier, it's not individuality that is questioned right here. It's the question, will we? We don't know, because that is the concept of future, I fear. But that is my approach to it, because in some sense, it actually relaxes me to know that, yeah, sure, we can. Yes, we can. But will we? We don't know. So let's see. So, yeah.
Lorraine, would you like to comment?
I mean, my advice to both the EBU, if you're listening, and we always also say that to the German broadcaster, actually, listen to the fans. They will know what to do. They have a good gut feeling about how Eurovision is supposed to be, and what changes can be made. One example is the muting of the audience. That was heavily disliked in Basel in Switzerland. This time they didn't mute the audience, and I do feel like, just taking a look at the online sections today, that people appreciated that. Yes, there was a disruption, but people said, okay, the voices have been heard. We saw on television that there is a fragmentation. Yippee-yay. So people appreciated that the EBU I think it was the Austrian broadcaster who made that decision, but I don't think out of isolation. They listened, they made changes, it was appreciated. So I always say listen to the fans.
Timna, would you like to comment on this last question, please, before we leave?
No.
Okay. So I want to thank our invited guests, Mamlak Werner, Jack Shepherd, Lorraine Handy, Timna Bauer. Thank you very much for being with us. Thank you. Nathan, I want to thank you all for being here, but I'm going to pass the floor to my colleague, Wilfred van Dellen. Please.
We're going to wrap it up, and then maybe if you still in person want to talk to a few people, go ahead. We need to leave sort of 1 o'clock, so we have just a few minutes left, and we need to clean things up. I want to thank Isabel for the panel discussion. Everyone else involved, our entire team, but also the universities that supported us, and of course, Grüner Club im Rathaus Wien. Oh, thank you for supporting us.
No broken oil.
Not yet.
I'm still shivering because you mentioned Joost Klein, and that is still a bit of a trauma as a Dutch person. So we'll talk about it. What we're going to do. Exactly. No, but Lisa, would you mind coming to the stage? Because I have a present for you. And maybe it's in the spirit of United by Music, because if we were talking about people coming to the bubble and leaving the bubble, and you said the moment you leave the bubble, the next bubble is actually already starting, right? And in the spirit of that, I brought Lisa something, but from my hometown, actually, because I'm living in Maastricht. The runner-up of which year? Who knows that? It went to Rotterdam, but Maastricht was actually the one that would have been there if Rotterdam would have been rejected, but no, we didn't make it. But the hometown of Maastricht, that's where I'm from, and actually, Lisa, to thank you, I brought you something which needs a little bit of an explanation. It's but that's what you do, right? You come all from Europe, so you bring something from your hometown. This is called Mergelblöckskes in Limburg. I think in English it's marble blocks, and in German it's Mergelblöcke. But it's not stone, it's actually chocolate. It's just that it's a reference to our region, because we use mergel, as we say in Dutch, mergel, actually to build houses as well in the wonderful city of Valkenburg, for example.
With chocolate.
No, not with chocolate. So this sort of symbolizes the region, but it's not stone, you can eat it. And I'm asking you actually to share it with a cup of coffee once this is over with Jenny, who also was a great support helping out, right?
Yeah.
Where's Jenny?
She had to leave. She has a rehearsal. Yeah, she's a musician.
Okay, so I'm trusting you actually to
Yes,
share that with Jenny.
Yeah.
Is there anything you want to say?
Well, thank you so much. I immensely enjoyed sharing this teaching space with all of you, and also everybody online. I don't know who is listening, but it was an immense pleasure. I learned so much. I never expected ESC to be such a wonderful and intriguing and also disturbing matter of thought. It's really going beyond everything that I could ever imagine. Also, when I was designing one of my classes that is involved here on nation branding and politics and everything that I'm also interested in my research. But it goes even beyond that, and also our cooperation with the Diplomatic Academy. Susan Ingram is here. Thank you so much. And the discussion we also had at the Swiss Embassy, and the panel discussion where Sophia was involved. Oops, she
had to leave.
She had to leave. It was just a wonderful insight in all of these worlds that do somehow unite us in disagreement, I would say. So thank you all.
Thank you.
Let's just stay. Because where's the camera? Are we there? We're going to say goodbye to the online audience. Thank you so much for joining. Stay in contact with us. If you're getting inspired by the Science Slam and in the future you want to join the Science Slam, just send us an email. We'll talk about it. What happens next year in Helsinki. Sydney, maybe. Who knows? Sydney, maybe, or Copenhagen, whatever city it's going to be. We'll see. So that's stay in contact with us, right? That's also on behalf of Isabel, who's here, and Carla, who is right here. Follow us online, check our website, and we hope to see you again next year. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so
Great
much.
questions.
Once again, thank you, Lauren. Thank you.
Questions from ESC.